The night was silent in the small village of Amani. The air was heavy and clouds covered the moon. Inside a tiny hut at the end of the village, a woman named Mama Leo cried out in pain as she gave birth. The midwife beside her wiped sweat from her brow and whispered, "Push, Mama, push. The babies are almost here." After a long struggle, the first baby's cry filled the room. A beautiful girl, healthy and pink. The midwife smiled and placed her in Mama Leo's arms. But before the mother could rest, another pain came. The second child was on the way. The midwife worked quickly, but something was wrong. The air turned cold. The oil lamp flickered as if the wind had entered the room, though the windows were closed. Mama Leo screamed once more, and then there was silence. The second baby arrived, but not with the same cry. The midwife looked down and gasped. The baby's eyes glowed faintly and strange marks covered her skin. Before she could speak, the lamp went out. Darkness filled the room. When the midwife lit the lamp again, the baby was gone. There was only an empty blanket and a small, shining snake scale lying beside it. The midwife trembled and whispered, "Spirits, protect us." Mama Leo, weak and shaking, stared at the scale. Her heart filled with fear. "What happened to my baby?" she asked in a weak voice. The midwife stammered, She disappeared. Only this was left." She held out the scale. Mama Leo burst into tears. She pressed the other twin to her chest and cried until dawn. When the village elder came to check on her, Mama Leo said nothing about the missing child. She only told them one baby was born. The villagers rejoiced and blessed the child, giving thanks for a safe delivery. No one spoke of the second baby again. Mama Leo named her daughter Adana, which meant father's daughter. The name was meant to bring strength and protection. But inside, Mama Leo carried a secret she could never share. Each night, she whispered to herself, "Forgive me, my child, wherever you are." As years passed, Adana grew into a bright and gentle girl. She loved to help her mother in the garden and fetch water from the river. Her laughter filled the air like birdsong. The villagers adored her. But they also noticed something strange about her. Snakes. Wherever Adana went, snakes appeared. They did not bite or hiss. They simply watched her, calm and still. Some even followed her home, curling around the base of her hut. The other children feared her at first, calling her the snake's friend. But Adana didn't mind. She loved all animals and never harmed them. One afternoon, Mama Leo saw Adana sitting in the yard, feeding pieces of yam to a small green snake. The creature's tongue flickered as if it understood her. "Adana!" Mama Leo shouted, running to pull her away. "You must never play with snakes." "But Mama," Adana said softly, "they don't hurt me. They like me." Mama Leo's heart pounded. She remembered the missing child, the cold night, the shining scale. Her hands shook as she took Adana inside. From that day, she warned her every evening, "Never go near the forest when the sun is falling." She repeated it so often that Adana began to dream of the forest. Sometimes she would stand near its edge, watching the tall trees sway in the wind. She heard whispers from inside, soft voices calling her name. "Adana! Adana!" They sounded gentle, like someone who loved her. But she was afraid to go closer. Her mother's warning always echoed in her heart. As Adana grew older, her bond with the forest seemed to grow stronger. Birds would follow her, and snakes appeared even during the dry season. Once, a hunter tried to kill a large python near the river. Adana screamed, begging him to stop. When the hunter ignored her and lifted his knife, he slipped and fell into the water. The villagers whispered that the forest protected her. But Adana did not understand why. She only knew that she felt safe among the trees, and lonely when away from them. One night, rain poured heavily. Thunder rolled across the sky. Mama Leo sat near the fire, her face pale with worry. She watched Adana sleep and whispered a prayer, "May the spirits never reveal what I have hidden." But outside in the shadows, a green snake moved silently through the rain. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark as it stopped near the hut. Lightning flashed, and for a moment, it seemed to bow its head as if watching over the sleeping girl inside. The next morning, Adana found the same snake near the water pot. Instead of running, she smiled. "Good morning," she said softly. "Are you lost?" The snake raised its head as if listening. Then it turned and slithered toward the path leading to the forest. Adana watched it go and felt something strange stir in her heart. A pull, a whisper, a longing. It felt like a memory she could not remember. When she told her mother what she saw, Mama Leo's face went pale. "Adana," she said quickly, "promise me you will not follow any snake again. Promise me." Adana nodded, though her eyes were full of questions. "I promise, Mama." That night she lay awake staring at the roof. She thought of the forest, of the whispering trees, of the soft voice that sometimes called her name. She did not know that somewhere deep within the forest, another being stirred, a creature with the same eyes, the same heart, and the same soul as hers. It waited patiently, knowing that one day the truth would bring her home. The moon rose high over Amani village, silver light bathing the huts. Mama Leo sat by the window, holding the old snake scale she had kept hidden all these years. It still shimmered faintly in her hand. Tears filled her eyes. "My lost child," she whispered into the night, "forgive me. Forgive what I did to save you." The wind blew softly, carrying her words toward the forest. Somewhere in the distance, a snake hissed gently as if answering her. And in her sleep, Adana dreamed once again of two babies, one crying in her mother's arms, the other crawling away into the shadows. She woke up crying, not knowing why her heart ached. Mama Leo rushed to her side, holding her tightly. "It's just a dream, my child. Go back to sleep." But Adana's eyes were filled with confusion. "Mama, I saw someone who looked like me," she whispered. "She was calling my name." Mama Leo froze, unable to speak. She only kissed her daughter's forehead and said, "Rest now, my dear. Everything will be fine." But deep down, both mother and daughter knew something was changing. Something that began the night of the birth and had never truly ended. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the village of Amani in soft orange light. Birds were returning to their nests, and the sound of crickets slowly began to fill the air. Adana walked down the narrow path that led to the forest, holding a small basket in her hand. Her mother had asked her to gather some healing herbs before sunset, and though the forest always made her uneasy, she went without question. The air was cool beneath the trees. Shafts of light broke through the branches, making the leaves glow gold and green. Adana moved carefully, her bare feet silent on the forest floor. She picked a few leaves of mint, then some roots near a fallen log. Everything seemed calm. The wind whispered softly, carrying the scent of earth and wildflowers. But as she bent to pluck one more plant near the riverbank, she suddenly felt something strange. The air grew still. The birds stopped singing. Even the insects went quiet. The forest felt alive, not in a peaceful way but as if it was watching her. She froze, glancing around. Her heart beat faster. "Maybe it's just the wind," she whispered to herself, trying to be brave. But then, from somewhere behind her, she heard a sound, a soft rustle of leaves. "Who's there?" she asked in a shaky voice. No answer came. Only the gentle splash of water in the river. She turned back to her herbs, trying to calm her fear. Then she heard it again, this time a whisper. "Adana?" She stopped breathing. The voice was faint but clear, like an echo. It was not a stranger's voice. It sounded like her own, the same tone, the same softness, but filled with sadness. Her fingers went cold. She slowly turned toward the sound. The trees stood silent, tall and dark. Nothing moved. "Adana?" The voice came again, closer this time. Her heart pounded in her chest. She took a step back, clutching her basket. "Who are you?" she called out. "Show yourself." At first there was only silence. Then the bushes beside her rustled and a green snake slithered out. It was long, smooth and shining, its golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. It stopped right in front of her, lifting its head to look straight into her eyes. Adana wanted to run, but her legs would not move. Something in those eyes held her still. For a long moment the snake said nothing. Then, in a soft voice that echoed inside her mind, it spoke. "You left me behind." Adana gasped. The voice, it wasn't just in her head. It sounded real, as though the air itself had spoken. She shook her head, stepping back slowly. What are you?" she whispered. The snake did not move closer. Its eyes were full of sorrow, not anger. "You left me behind," it said again, its tongue flickering gently. Adana stumbled backward, her basket slipping from her hands and falling to the ground. The herbs scattered across the dirt. Her breath came fast, her chest tight. "No. I don't know you. Leave me alone," she cried, turning to run. But before she could move, the snake's voice came once more, softer this time, almost like a sigh. "You will remember, soon." The forest seemed to close around her. The trees leaned in, the air thick with silence. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the snake slid back into the bushes and vanished. Adana stood frozen, staring at the spot where it disappeared. Her body trembled, and she felt as if she had just seen a ghost. When the wind finally stirred again, she turned and ran as fast as she could, her heart thundering in her chest. The basket lay forgotten on the ground. She didn't stop until she saw the first huts of her village. When she reached home, she burst through the door. Her mother, Mama Leo, was cooking by the fire. She looked up in shock. Adana. What happened? Where are the herbs? Adana could barely speak. Her throat felt dry. Mama, there was something in the forest. A snake, it spoke to me. Mama Leo froze. The wooden spoon fell from her hand and clattered against the pot. What did you say? A snake, Adana whispered again. It said I left it behind. For a long moment her mother said nothing. Her face turned pale, her eyes wide with fear. Did you stay long? She asked in a trembling voice. Adana shook her head. No, I ran. I didn't look back. Mama Leo reached for her daughter's hand and squeezed it tightly. You must never go there again. Promise me, Adana. Promise me you will stay away from that forest. Adana nodded weakly, though her mind was full of questions. What had she seen? How could a snake speak her name? Why did it sound like her? That night, Adana lay in bed staring at the roof. The sound of the whisper still echoed in her ears. She pulled the blanket close, but the chill in her heart would not go away. Sleep finally came, but it brought no peace. She dreamed of a baby crying in the dark. The baby was wrapped in something that shone like silver scales. The sound of hissing surrounded her, soft but endless. Then she saw herself, a small girl reaching out toward the crying baby, but just before she could touch it, the baby turned into a snake. Don't leave me, the snake whispered in her voice. Adana woke up suddenly, her body drenched in sweat. The room was dark, except for the glow of the dying fire. Her eyes filled with tears, though she didn't know why. She pressed her face into her pillow and sobbed quietly so her mother wouldn't hear. The next morning she tried to act normal. She helped Mama Leo with the washing and fed the goats. But her mind was far away. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the snake's golden eyes staring back at her. When she went to the river to fetch water, she looked at her reflection in the water. For a moment, she thought she saw another face beside hers. The same face but with faint marks like scales on the skin. She blinked and it was gone. Maybe I'm losing my mind, she whispered to herself. But as she turned to leave, a small green leaf floated past her on the water. A leaf that glimmered faintly, almost like the snake's skin. She picked it up and for a moment she felt warmth spread through her fingers. It was not frightening, it felt familiar. That night she could not eat. Mama Leo watched her carefully, noticing the shadows under her eyes. You're thinking about the forest again, aren't you? She asked softly. Adana nodded. Mama, what if the snake wasn't trying to hurt me? What if it was trying to tell me something? Her mother looked away, her hands trembling. Snakes bring danger, not messages, she said quickly. But her voice broke on the last word. Adana frowned. You're hiding something. Go to bed, Mama Leo said sharply. Adana obeyed, but deep inside she knew this was not the end. The voice in the forest had called her name for a reason. And no matter how much she tried to forget, that whisper, soft and sad like her own, would never leave her. The days after Adana's strange meeting in the forest were heavy with silence. She no longer laughed the way she used to, and her eyes carried the weight of questions she couldn't answer. Every sound in the trees made her turn her head sharply. Every rustle of grass reminded her of that soft voice that whispered her name. Mama Leo noticed the change in her daughter. She watched her with worry each morning and prayed in silence each night. But she said nothing. She hoped the fear in Adana's heart would fade with time. Yet deep down she knew the truth could not stay buried forever. One afternoon the sun was high, and Adana sat outside her hut, grinding dried herbs in a clay bowl. Her hands moved, but her mind was far away. The sound of the snake's voice echoed again and again inside her head. You left me behind. Those words would not leave her. They made her heart ache in a way she didn't understand. Sometimes she dreamed of the forest and saw a pair of eyes like her own staring back at her from the shadows. Finally she could no longer keep quiet. She went inside the hut where Mama Leo was sitting beside the fire. Mama, she said softly. Her mother looked up. Yes, my child? Adana's voice shook a little. There is something I must know. Please tell me the truth. Why do the snakes follow me? Why did that one in the forest speak my name? Mama Leo froze. The spoon in her hand slipped and fell to the floor. For a moment she did not move. Her face went pale, and her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Mama, Adana said again, stepping closer. I saw it. It looked at me like it knew me. I'm not imagining things. Something happened when I was born, didn't it? Mama Leo's hands began to tremble. She turned her face away and whispered, some things are better left alone. But I can't live like this, Adana said, her voice rising. Everywhere I go the snakes come to me. I dream of a baby crying in the dark. Tell me, Mama. Please. For a long time the only sound in the hut was the crackle of the fire. Then Mama Leo took a deep breath and sat down slowly. Her eyes were full of tears before she even began to speak. Adana, she said softly, you were not born alone. Adana frowned. What do you mean? You had a twin, Mama Leo whispered. The words hit Adana like a wave. A twin? She repeated in shock. Where is she? Mama Leo's voice broke. She is not here. She was different. Adana's eyes widened. Different? How? Her mother's hands clutched her wrapper tightly. When I gave birth there were two of you. The first was you, strong and crying with life. But the second, her voice faded, then she forced herself to go on. The second came with the mark of the serpent. Her eyes glowed faintly, and her skin had strange patterns. The midwife screamed that she was cursed. The villagers would have killed her if they knew. Adana covered her mouth, horror filling her heart. What did you do? Mama Leo looked at the floor, tears running down her cheeks. I did what I thought would save her. I took her into the forest, away from the eyes of men. I begged the spirits to protect her. That night, the forest grew still and I heard the hiss of snakes all around. When I looked again she was gone. Only a shining scale lay where I had placed her. Adana stood there frozen. She could hardly breathe. You mean, she swallowed hard. You mean the snake, the one I saw, is my sister? Mama Leo nodded slowly. Yes, my child. She is your blood. Your other half. The forest took her in and she became one of them. Adana sank to her knees. Her chest hurt as if her heart had broken in two. All these years, she whispered, I felt something missing. I thought it was just a dream. But she was real, my sister was real. Mama Leo reached out, her hands shaking. I never wanted to lose her. But I had no choice. The people feared what they didn't understand. They would have burned the hut if they knew. I had to protect you both in the only way I could. Adana lifted her tear-streaked face. And you never told me? I wanted to, Mama Leo said. But how could I? You were just a child. You would not understand. And as you grew, I feared it would only bring you pain. Adana wiped her tears roughly. Pain? Mama, I saw her. She spoke to me. She remembers. She thinks I abandoned her. Mama Leo's lips trembled. She does not know the truth. The spirits changed her. She belongs to their world now. But she still feels, Adana said. I could hear it in her voice. She sounded lonely, sad. She called to me. Mama Leo looked into the fire. That is why I warned you never to go to the forest. Some bonds are too strong to be broken. I feared that if you met her, the spirits would take you too. Adana shook her head. You can't keep me from her forever, Mama. She is my sister. She is not the same anymore, Mama Leo said firmly. She is no longer human. The spirits gave her power, but they also took her soul. But she is still my blood, Adana whispered. Even if she has changed, I can't ignore her. She called for me because she wants me to find her. Mama Leo's eyes filled with terror. Adana, no. The forest is not a place for the living to seek the lost. Please listen to me. But Adana's heart was already set. She felt the truth burning inside her, a pull she could not fight. She now knew why she had always felt drawn to the forest, why the snakes had never harmed her. It was her sister's spirit reaching out all these years, watching, waiting. Mama Leo grabbed her hand. If you go to that forest you might never come back. Adana looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. Then at least I'll know the truth. I can't live my whole life pretending she doesn't exist. Her mother wept and pulled her close. You are all I have left. Don't let me lose you too. Adana hugged her tightly. You won't lose me, Mama. I promise. I just need to see her even once. The fire flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. Outside, the night wind whispered through the trees like a distant song. Mama Leo sat still after Adana went to her mat. She could not sleep. Her heart was heavy with dread. She looked at the old snake scale she had kept hidden for years. It glowed faintly in her hand, just like it had the night she lost her second child. She whispered, Spirit of my lost daughter, please have mercy. Do not take her from me too. In the darkness, far away in the forest, the same green snake lifted its head as if hearing the prayer. Its golden eyes blinked slowly. Then, from deep within its chest came a soft, sad hiss, a sound that carried across the trees and into the night air. In her sleep, Adana stirred. She dreamed of two babies lying side by side, one with bright eyes, the other wrapped in a soft green glow. She reached out her hand, but before she could touch her twin, the forest swallowed the child whole. Adana woke with tears on her cheeks and a single thought burning in her heart: she had to find her sister. The sun was setting when Adana left her home. The sky burned with orange and gold, and the air was calm, too calm. Even the birds were quiet. She walked along the narrow path that led to the forest, her heart heavy but strong. Mama Leo had begged her not to go, but the call inside her could no longer be ignored. She had to see her sister. She had to face the truth. As she reached the edge of the forest, the wind began to move gently through the trees, whispering as though the forest itself was alive. The last rays of sunlight touched the leaves, turning them to fire. Adana stood there for a moment, breathing in the smell of earth and rain. Her hands trembled slightly, but she took a deep breath and stepped forward. The deeper she went, the quieter it became. No insects, no rustling leaves, no birds. Only her footsteps and the faint beat of her heart. She stopped when she reached the riverbank, the same place she had first heard the voice. The water shimmered with the reflection of the dying sun. "Adana?" The voice came again, soft and haunting. It was the same voice that had called her before, but now it sounded closer, almost beside her. She turned slowly. From between the trees, a faint glow began to appear. It was green, soft like moonlight. Then the snake emerged, larger than before, its scales shining like glass. It slid gracefully across the ground, its golden eyes fixed on her. Adana felt no fear this time. Her heart was full of sadness and love. Tears filled her eyes as she knelt down. The snake stopped in front of her, lifting its head. Its voice was gentle and full of pain. "Why did you leave me, sister?" Adana's lips trembled. "I never knew," she said softly. "I would never have left you. Please forgive me." For a moment there was silence. Then the snake moved closer. Slowly, it coiled around her, not tightly but tenderly, like an embrace. Its scales were cool against her skin, and as it touched her, a warm light began to spread through the forest. The ground beneath them glowed, the trees shimmered, and the air grew thick with golden dust. Adana closed her eyes as the brightness grew stronger. She felt the coils loosen, and when she opened her eyes again, the snake was gone. Standing before her was a young woman, beautiful, radiant, and identical to her in every way. The same eyes, the same smile, even the same small scar near the lip. But her skin glowed faintly with green light, and her hair flowed like silk. Adana gasped, her heart beating fast. "Sister." The woman smiled gently. "Yes, Adana. It's me. My name was Amira. You never knew me, but I have always known you." Adana stepped forward slowly, afraid that the vision might fade. "You're real," she whispered. "I thought I was losing my mind." Amira shook her head. "You were never mad. We have always been connected. Every time you walked into the forest, I felt you. Every time you cried, I heard you." Adana's tears fell freely. "Mama said the spirits took you. She said you were born different." Amira nodded. "It's true. The spirits claimed me. They gave me the gift of life when the world rejected me. But it was a lonely life, Adana. I watched you grow from afar, always by your side in ways you could not see." Adana's voice broke. "You were there?" "Yes," Amira said softly. "When you fell sick as a child, I wrapped you in warmth so you would heal. When you lost your way near the river, I called the birds to guide you home. I have always watched over you, sister. You were never alone." Adana took a step closer. "Then why did you call me now? Why show yourself?" Amira looked toward the fading sun. "Because my time is ending. The spirits are calling me back. I wanted to see you once, to tell you that you were never to blame." Adana's heart ached. "No," she said, shaking her head. "Please don't go. I just found you. We can find a way, I can help you." Amira smiled sadly. "There is no way. My life is not like yours. I am part of the forest now. My soul belongs here." Adana reached out a trembling hand, touching her sister's arm. It felt real warm, alive. "Then stay. Stay with me for a while. Tell me about your life. Tell me everything." Amira's eyes softened. "There is not much to tell. The forest became my home. The snakes became my family. I learned their ways, their songs. I learned to listen to the earth. And through it all, I watched you from afar, wishing I could speak to you." Adana wept quietly. "I wish I had known. I wish Mama had told me. You didn't deserve to be alone." Amira brushed a tear from her cheek. "It wasn't your fault or hers. She did what she thought was right. If she hadn't taken me to the forest, I would not have survived." The two sisters stood there in silence, the forest glowing softly around them. Fireflies danced in the air, and the sound of water filled the quiet space between their hearts. Finally Amira said, "It's time." Adana shook her head. "Please, not yet." Amira smiled faintly. "You have a good heart, Adana. Promise me you will keep it pure. Promise you will protect this forest and the creatures in it. That is how you can keep me alive." Adana nodded through her tears. "I promise." Amira reached forward and pulled her into an embrace. Adana held her tightly, feeling warmth spread through her body. It felt like sunlight and rain all at once. As they held each other, the glow grew brighter and brighter until it covered everything. The trees shone like gold, the river turned to silver, and the air hummed with soft music. "I love you, my sister," Amira whispered. "And I always will." Adana tried to speak, but her voice broke. She could only hold on tighter. Then, slowly, Amira's light began to fade. Her form turned transparent, her smile still gentle. "Don't cry," she said softly. "Even when you can't see me, I will be here, in the wind, in the river, in every leaf that moves." And with that she was gone. The glow faded, and the forest returned to silence. Only the moonlight remained, washing everything in silver. Adana stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where her sister had been. Then she looked down and saw something shining in the grass, a small green scale, glowing faintly. She picked it up and held it close to her heart. A soft breeze brushed against her cheek and she heard a faint whisper, "Thank you, sister." Tears ran down her face, but this time they were not just of sorrow. They were of peace. She had found her lost twin, not through blood but through love. When she finally turned to leave, the forest was quiet again. The moon followed her home, lighting her path. She knew her life would never be the same. A piece of her heart now belonged to the forest, where her sister's spirit would forever rest. That night, Mama Leo found her daughter sitting outside their hut, staring at the green scale in her hand. She did not ask what happened. She saw the calm in Adana's eyes and understood everything without words. Adana whispered softly, "She forgave us, Mama. She's free now." Mama Leo placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. They sat in silence, the stars watching over them. The forest behind them glowed faintly, as if a spirit still lingered, gentle, peaceful, and full of love. The first light of dawn crept over the hills of Amani, painting the sky with soft colors of gold and pink. The morning air was cool, and the song of birds slowly filled the silence. By the riverbank, where mist curled gently above the water, an old farmer named Baba Joro walked with his basket, ready to fetch water for his crops. But that morning he saw something unusual. There, near the edge of the river, lay a young woman. Her head rested against a rock, her face calm and peaceful, as though she was only dreaming. In her hand, she held a small green scale that shimmered faintly in the morning light. At first, Baba Joro feared the worst. "Oh, dear child," he whispered, rushing closer. "What has happened to you?" But as he bent down, Adana stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing calm, shining pupils that seemed to hold a gentle light within them. She smiled faintly when she saw the old man. "Ah, Baba Joro," she said softly. "The sun is up already." He sighed with relief. "Praise the spirits you're alive. What are you doing here at this hour, child?" "The forest is dangerous at night." Adana sat up slowly. Her hair was covered with dew, and her dress was wet from the grass, but she didn't seem to mind. She looked down at the green scale in her palm and smiled again, this time with deep peace. "I was not alone," she whispered. "I found her." Baba Joro frowned slightly. "Who?" "My sister," Adana said, her voice quiet but sure. "The one the forest kept." The old man didn't understand, but he could feel something strange in the air, something pure, something sacred. He helped her to her feet and walked her home, saying nothing more. When Mama Leo saw her daughter, she ran forward and held her tightly. Tears filled her eyes. "My child. I thought I lost you too." Adana hugged her mother back. "No, Mama," she said softly. "You didn't lose me. You gave me to her. And now, we are both free." From that day, Adana was different. She still smiled, still spoke kindly, but there was a calmness in her eyes that made people stop and listen when she spoke. She spent most of her days in the forest, planting trees, healing hurt animals, and caring for the land. At first, the villagers whispered about her. Some said she was strange. Some said the spirits had touched her. But in time, everyone saw that her heart was pure. The forest around Amani began to change. Flowers bloomed brighter, the rivers ran clearer, and the snakes that once frightened the people now kept away from the farms and homes. When children asked Adana why she loved the forest so much, she would sit with them under a tree and tell them softly, "Because even the smallest creature may carry the soul of someone we once loved." Her words touched their hearts. The children stopped killing snakes for fun, the hunters began to offer prayers before cutting down trees, and the women gathered herbs with care, never taking more than they needed. Slowly the people of Amani learned to live in peace with the forest. Adana became known as the keeper of the green. People came to her for help, when their crops failed, when their animals were sick, or when their hearts were heavy. She would listen with patience, touch the soil, whisper to the wind, and somehow things would grow again. One evening as the sun set behind the hills, Mama Leo sat outside her hut, watching her daughter return from the forest. Adana walked slowly, her basket full of herbs, her hair catching the last rays of sunlight. "You've changed, my child," Mama Leo said softly. Adana smiled. "We all must change, Mama. The forest taught me that." Mama Leo looked down at the green scale that Adana always wore around her neck. It glowed softly like a living thing. "Do you still see her?" Adana looked toward the trees and nodded. "Not with my eyes, Mama. But I feel her. When the wind blows, when the river sings, when the leaves move, she's there." Mama Leo closed her eyes. A single tear slipped down her cheek, but it was not from sadness. It was from peace. Years passed. Adana grew older, but her beauty never faded. Her presence brought calm wherever she went. Children followed her, learning the songs of the forest and the ways of kindness. And sometimes when she sat by the river at dusk, she would hum softly, a tune only she and her sister knew. One day a young boy ran to her. "Adana, a snake entered my home. Should I kill it?" he shouted, panting. Adana knelt down and placed a hand on his shoulder. "No, child. You must not kill it. Guide it back to the forest. It only lost its way." The boy hesitated. "But my father says snakes are evil." Adana smiled gently. "Not all things we fear are evil. Sometimes they are only lonely." The boy nodded slowly, his eyes wide. That night, he and his father took the snake back to the woods, and for the first time, they saw it not as a monster but as a living creature with a purpose. The story of Adana spread far and wide. Travelers came from other villages to see the woman who spoke with animals and healed the sick without medicine. But Adana never claimed to be special. She only said, "The earth listens when you speak with love." One night, many years later, Mama Leo passed away peacefully. Adana buried her beside the old river, under a large tree. She placed flowers and the same green scale, the one she had held since the night she found her sister, upon her mother's grave. "Rest, Mama," she whispered. "You brought us into this world. You gave us life even when you were afraid. The forest forgives you and so do we." As she stood there, a soft wind passed through the trees. The leaves rustled and a small green snake slid across her feet before disappearing into the grass. Adana smiled. "Good night, sister," she said. The years continued to flow like the river, but Adana's love for the forest never faded. She built a small hut near the trees and lived there, tending to the land and teaching others. Even when her hair turned silver, her eyes still held the same quiet light, the same peace she had found that morning by the riverbank. When the children of Amani grew up, they told their own children about her. They said, "There once lived a woman who spoke to the spirits and loved even the smallest of creatures. She taught us that love does not die, it only changes its form." And so, the people of Amani changed too. They no longer feared the forest. They saw it as part of their home, full of life, full of memory. Sometimes, during the still hours of dawn, the villagers said they could see a faint light moving among the trees, two figures walking side by side, their laughter echoing softly through the wind. They said it was Adana and her twin, forever together, guarding the land they both loved. And when the children asked their elders what the story meant, the answer was always the same. It means love never ends, not in life, not in death, not even in the silence between. The people of Amani bowed their heads whenever they passed the river. They threw flowers into the water, whispering wishes for peace and kindness. For they had learned the greatest truth of all, that even the smallest creature, even the simplest life, might carry the soul of someone once loved. The forest of Amani still stands, green and alive, full of whispers, full of love, and full of stories that never truly end.